Howdy, boys and girls. Welcome back. It is week 5 of the 2020 college football season, regardless of when your team is starting to play. We'll get I'm excited, and I'm a little speechless because a thing that I did not think was going to happen has happened, and we will have Maction. Maction, Carla is baction.
Yes, and they're starting on a Wednesday, which is like the most Mac thing ever.
Apparently they're going to play like the first half of the season, all weekday games. No, let's not even give Saturday a look. They will finish the season playing Saturday games. It's a 6-game season, title game on December 18th or 19th. The only thing that can make this better if it was like every single game was on a Tuesday night. But okay, I am good with having Maction back. It is going to make this college football season seem complete. In the midst of all the weirdness, and there's a lot of weirdness.
I wore green tonight in solidarity with. No, actually, I was just wearing a green shirt today. But I'm gonna go ahead and say that I wore green in solidarity of Maction returning.
I would have believed that. You could have just told me that, and I would. Okay, we're gonna edit this. Just go ahead and tell me your word for solidarity.
So I wore green in solidarity.
I'm not going to edit this, but that's fine. I appreciate that. Thank you. There is weirdness. Both this coming weekend, last weekend, there was interesting stuff. I have some thoughts, and I brought this up when we were talking about Army of Cincinnati. So I have some thoughts about the what is the best group of 5 team in the country. But first, while we were watching air raid destroy the defending national champion on Saturday, Professor Carla.
I have to don the regalia.
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
All right.
I'm set.
Now we're ready.
Regalia's on.
Professor Carla mentioned via text message the possibility of transferring the Carla and Crappy Show Stanford postulate to Mississippi State. And I thought, this is an interesting thing, and Carla, being one of the extra learnedness, see, and Carla would never make up a word like that. This is the kind of thing that someone with a bachelor degree would do.
Well, you already gave me a promotion.
So. I did. On the Carla and Crappy Show, Carla is a professor, absolutely, and I will fight anybody who suggests otherwise. But so what we're going to start with Carla. Carla is going for background, is going to explain what the Stanford postulate has been in the past, and then explain why this might apply to Mike Leach and Mississippi State this season. Go.
Okay, so the Stanford postulate. If you've been with us for a while, we came up with this. 2015, 2016, something like that. It's been a while.
3 or 4 years ago, something like that.
Yeah. The idea of we love our tree. First of all, this is not a bash towards Stanford at all. We really love. We're both kind of closet Stanford fans. I think
it's the Big Ten team on the West Coast.
It is, and we both are pretty big fans of Stanford. Mm-hmm. But there was about a 3-season stretch where Stanford would do the exact opposite of what they probably should do in a game. So if they were predicted to win big, the game would be super close and they would either lose or they would just eke one out. If they were predicted to lose, they would figure out a way to win the darn football game. Mm-hmm. And so we decided to start calling it the Stanford postulate, which means that Stanford will do the exact opposite of what we predict them to do. And it held up for like 3 seasons.
It really did, yeah.
Every time we would pick Stanford to lose, they'd win. Every time we'd pick Stanford to win, they'd lose, or eke one out. And so it became a thing, and it was a thing on the show for quite a while. So that was the Stanford postulate. The other thing that we like to talk about, and this is the other theory that, since we're going to go all academia here, so the other theory that we talk about on the show is the transitive property of college football. Right.
Yes.
So this is something that, like, from my writing days when I worked for a company that has a big purple Y as their logo. When we were managing message boards.
Yeah.
This idea of transitive. I know. Yeah. That's where the soul of the internet is.
Right.
is on message boards, and we started coming up with the idea of the transitive property, which is if a team beats another team and then that team gets beaten by another team and that team gets beaten by another team, then the team at the top would beat the team at the bottom. And you end up with these ridiculous things, right? Yes. Especially like this season when you have like a team like Coastal Carolina that beats Kansas. And then let's say Kansas screws around and beats a good team in the Big 12. And so then if X, then Y. So it would be.
I think Coastal's actually already won the Big 12 championship.
Well, we joked about that with, was it Arkansas State or something? We talked about Arkansas State possibly winning the Big 12, right? Yeah. So Coastal Carolina could win the Big 12 based on Coastal Carolina beating Kansas and how that all works. So you end up sometimes at the end of the season when you end up with this really wacky circle, right? That can be really, really fun to kind of follow. So that's the transitive property of college football. We got the Stanford postulate. Why this is all coming into play. The quarterback at Mississippi State this year is KJ Costello, a former Stanford tree with a degree from Stanford. And he's being coached by a Pac-12 coach.
Yes.
In the SEC. So the question I posed to Crappy during the game on Saturday was, because KJ Costello is now the quarterback at Mississippi State, does the Stanford postulate transfer with him?
I'm thinking, I mean, and the results sort of bears that out. I mean,
it does.
Yes, you expect Mississippi State's Mike Leach's offense to perform as it did on Saturday, but do you expect them to beat the defending national champion? No. And that's what they did. So I think I think you're onto something here.
So I think we might have the transitive property of the Stanford postulate.
Oh God. Okay.
I think is what we've just created here.
This is probably the right time for me to tell you that I got a C- in logic in college. So
logic was one of my favorate classes in undergrad. I love logic. It was so much fun.
Okay. So this is perfect. This is perfect. I think I didn't even look to see who Mississippi State plays this weekend. Do you know off the top of your head?
I didn't look it up either.
I might have this right here in front of me. No, that's Middle Tennessee. Hey, Arkansas is playing at Mississippi State. We're going to take a look at this. Is bonus game coverage, folks.
That we're doing on the fly.
We're doing on the fly. Mississippi State is favored by 18.5 points over under 69. And for an SEC game, I know the SEC isn't the 9-6 games that we used to complain about these days, but that's a big number for the SEC.
Yes, it is. So based on the transitive property of the Stanford postulate, Mississippi State should win this game big, which means that Arkansas will cover.
Okay, yeah.
I still think Mississippi State's going to win the game because it's Arkansas, but I'm going to say that Arkansas figures out a way to cover.
And that's with a 18-point line, that's not out of the realm of possibility. I'm with you. I do think Mississippi State wins this game. Although Arkansas didn't have a terrible.
No, they actually looked pretty good in the first half.
Yeah, but that was we'll
talk about that.
Reference that. Yes, we will. We will. Okay, so here's another T-shirt idea, right?
It is
the transitive property of the Stanford postulate
2020
of college football. We're gonna have a whole wardrobe for you guys by the time the season's over.
We're working on the first shirt. We'll see if we can figure that out. If I could just figure out a way that we can get it out to people so they can buy it without us having to manage all that. That's the piece I'm working on. But we might have swag.
We can do this stuff. We can make this happen.
We can do anything we want. It's 2020. We have no idea.
That's right. We have no idea, and it just doesn't matter. I mentioned when we were previewing Cincinnati and Army last week that Cincinnati might be the best Group of 5 team in the country, and I didn't really see anything. I was impressed. I was impressed by Cincinnati. They played an Army game, not with a triple option, obviously, but run heavy, possession, just hold on to the ball, make sure you convert a long drive into points. I was really impressed by their defense because we say this over and over. Playing Army is tough because they execute the triple option so well.
Yeah.
and you really have to be. You can't over pursue. You can't be too aggressive. You have to be crazy disciplined to play that offense, to play against that offense, and Cincinnati did. Really, I mean, basically shut down Army's offense for much of the game. So a perfect game defensively. I would expect that from Luke Fickell's a Luke Fickell team. So if you're looking at this, clearly, I mean, head and shoulders above everybody else is Cincinnati, and of course, recent national champion UCF. UCF would be a top 10 team right now if our two favorite Big Ten teams, neither of which have played a game yet, hadn't suddenly been dropped into the middle of the top 10. I think UCF would be 8th or 9th in the coaches poll, something like that. And Cincinnati would be 11th or 12th. So this is both of those teams. It's just an interesting thing to pay attention to. And AJ will probably elaborate on this later on. Both teams have to play Memphis in October. That will be a challenge for both. November 21st, assuming that we have no COVID related issues. November 21st is the game between UCF and Cincinnati, and that's. I mean, could there? That's a New Year's Six bowl at stake. I'm almost certain. I will say that right now.
It could potentially even be a playoff spot.
Yeah,
with the way the season's going.
Did you hear me hesitate just a second ago? I was like, it could be. That could be.
Maybe. I mean, it might be the first time that we actually really have a legitimate shot of a Group of 5 team getting into the playoff, and because everything, we have no idea of the season. So, like,
true.
I that it could be. Definitely New Year's Six. I would agree that minimum a New Year's Six is on.
There's my cat. Everybody say hello to Charlie.
Hi, Charlie.
He can't hear you, but I'm gonna. Jeez. Okay, so before we get to our games this weekend, hey buddy, thank you.
Does Charlie want to throw it to AJ?
I don't. Charlie, you want to tell AJ? He knows AJ. AJ's the one who comes and feeds him when we go away for weekends. You may not have my beer. So I mean, if AJ were to walk in the door like right now, Charlie would be doing the same thing to AJ. Speaking of AJ, there is a ton of fun Group of 5 stuff coming this weekend, and AJ is going to tell you about it right now. AJ, go.
Hello, everyone. It is your Week 5 Group of 5 report. Yes, we've done 5 of these. We are Week 5 in the season. No, the Big Ten and the Mountain West and the Pac-12 they haven't played yet. It's fine. They will. We don't know how many, but they will. Mountain West football soon come. This week we saw a couple games get postponed. We're seeing games get postponed for next week as well. App State or Louisiana at App State is postponed already due to COVID. So again, there's a reason we started doing the recordings later in the week and putting this up later in the week because, well, we have no idea who's going to play. What we do know, though, Friday night, Louisiana Tech goes to Provo. Late night game at BYU, 9 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN2. BYU is favored by 24 points. There's a reason for that. They have outscored opponents 103-10. Dare I say it, BYU is fun? They are putting points on the board. They're just a truly fun team to watch. Zach Wilson and Gunnar Romney are amazing. Gunnar Romney is going to be that receiver you hate on an NFL team, like a slot receiver that's just gutting opponents for hundreds of yards a game. Yeah, you're going to hate him soon. But, hey, listen, they're a fun team to watch. Louisiana Tech doesn't have a shabby offense either. It's a Friday night game in Provo. Break out the good sodas. At 12:30 on Saturday, ESPN2, we have Arkansas State traveling to Conway, South Carolina to play the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. This is, as far as I'm concerned, the Big 12 championship. Arkansas State beat Kansas State. Kansas State beat Oklahoma State. Thus, Arkansas State currently your number one contender in the Big 12. Coastal Carolina beat Kansas. That means they have a win there as well. So this is a Big 12 championship game. Arkansas State favored by 3.5. This is probably the best game, at least line-wise, in the noon slate. So I would keep an eye on this one. This should just be a good, close game. Things might get weird in some of the other games. This one should just be close out of the gate. So keep an eye on this one. Memphis at SMU at 3:30 on ESPN2. So just tune into ESPN2 and just leave it there. Just turn your TV off, turn it back on. There will be college football games of fun and might be of some import. Memphis at SMU. This is a road game for Memphis. They've had multiple games postponed and or canceled since playing earlier this season. They're 1-0. They appear to be a very good football team, but they haven't played anybody in weeks. So there may be some rust coming into this. They're favored by 2.5 at SMU, but that over-under is 74.5. Let's get pointsy, everybody. Throw that football. It's a midday game at SMU. This should be fun. Shane Bichelle, still a very good quarterback. Brady White, also a very good quarterback. This should just be a very fun and very pointsy game. Just turn off your defense brain and let the points flow in. At 6 o'clock, our final G5 game of the week, Navy versus Air Force in Colorado Springs. This is one of Air Force's 2 currently scheduled games. They started out the season, they're part of the Mountain West. When the Mountain West canceled, Air Force said, we're playing Navy and we're playing Army, and that's it. So this is the first of 2. Now that the Mountain West is coming back, Air Force will get a new schedule. Navy is currently favored by 7. Air Force has a lot of personnel issues, weirdly. Right now, they have a ton of players who opted out, mostly on the defensive side of the ball. Special teams is a mess. And their 2-year starter, Donald Hammond III, is not expected to suit up as he is not in good standing as a cadet, which just sounds like the very most polite way to say, you done goofed, bud. This game should take like 78 minutes to play. It's 2 option teams running option football. So Navy should take this. Navy's a good team. They got back on the right side of the ball after getting absolutely wrecked by BYU in their first game of the season. But they've played 2 games. Air Force hasn't played any. So I expect Navy to win. This should just be a delightful little option dessert to finish off your day. There are some other games being played. Rankings. No one knows what that is. Please watch last year's Cheez-It Bowl champions Air Force in their first game of the season in October against Navy. Please watch that instead. It's going to be worth it, I promise. This has been your Group of 5 report. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, AJ. I think Charlie. I mentioned that. I think Charlie heard AJ's name and is just like, yes, where is that guy? Because AJ feeds Charlie when you can't move the camera. We have games to talk about this weekend, and I'm going to try to handle my cat while Carla talks about the first one. This starts at 3:30 on Saturday. No big nude this weekend. Texas A&M, number 13, at number 2 Alabama. Alabama is favored by 17. Carla, both of these teams got wins, but all wins are not created equal, right?
Yeah, that's super true. I was just gonna say this is probably one of the more marquee matchups that we've had so far this year.
Yeah.
And if you look back to like where we were at the end of 2019, we had pretty high hopes for Texas A&M. Heading into the season, we felt like they had really great stability. They had, stability at quarterback, stability at head coach, and that was something that not a lot of other teams had in the SEC this year. We were scratching our heads, going, "Is there a possibility that maybe Texas A&M could go into the mix here?" And then they opened their season against Vandy, and a head scratcher at home, and what a head scratcher! Incredibly sloppy, 3 turnovers. The line was 30+ points. Texas A&M was more than a 30-point favorite to beat Vandy. And they had to eke by with a 5-point win, 17-12. It just really uncharacteristic, and it does kind of leave your head scratching a little bit. Is it rust? I mean, Kellen Mond is a good quarterback. He was expected to be an offensive strength for this team. He fumbled the ball 3 times. So how much of the sloppiness did we see? Is it just it's 2020 and we've seen that from a lot of teams not getting the reps that they normally would get? Is it starting immediately with an SEC schedule? Although I would argue that sorry Vanderbilt, you're not really SEC caliber. I mean, okay, so if Texas A&M opened with like an Alabama,
I will let the national resident make that judgment.
Yeah, I love you, Vandy, but like at football, you're just not quite there. I love you in baseball, but like this is football, and Vandy just hasn't been competitive in the SEC for the last 3 seasons, and playing at home, like it's just a real head scratcher as to why this happened to Texas A&M, and is this, and so we're going to find out, like is this indicative of maybe some trouble amok in the offense, or was this just first game jitters and 2020 and we don't know anything, and it's just, we have no idea. It's just all of that. Alabama, on the other hand, was exactly what we would expect out of an Alabama team. And the reason why, even with a lot of question marks that they had heading into the season, that we both, without hesitation, put Alabama into our Final Fours. They jumped up really early by Mizzou, or over Mizzou in their opener, and then just coasted the rest of the game. They still, we weren't sure about what all Alabama was going to have returning. They've still got Najee Harris at running back, and that's really kind of all you need if you're Alabama at this point. I mean, he's just a powerhouse when he gets going, and he did get going. Mac Jones had an efficient start at quarterback to start his season, and Jalen Waddle is his new go-to receiver. We figured that out pretty quickly because Mac Jones had like 233 yards passing or something like that, and Jalen Waddle had like 134 of them. So the two of them have a good connection pretty early in the season. So Alabama looks like Alabama, and the Bama defense looks like it always does. Bama defense looked good, especially against the run. They bottled up Mizzou, held them to I think 60 yards rushing or something like that. So here's the thing: like Bama was good on defense against the run, maybe a little not quite full Alabama in the secondary. They did allow a little bit of wiggle room there for Mizzou. Now, true, it was mostly when the second team was in there. So if Kellen Mond's issues were just first game jitters, rust, not getting reps, and he's able to throw the ball a little bit, Texas A&M could keep this interesting, but I don't know. I just, my note here says if Mond is more secure, the Aggies might hang, but I just can't go against Alabama at home based on what we've seen between these two teams in the first game of the season.
The thing that you mentioned about and Texas A&M looks sloppy, and it looks like it looked like this is not a team that was it's a good team, obviously a lot of talent, but they just haven't had the time to gel and prepare, and that is a worry when you are going up against Alabama. I don't know that that's the case, but we've seen instances of teams. Coach Ken at Navy. Bring this up again, but he said going into their game against the BYU, we haven't had contact practices. We've been doing things differently because of Camp Corona. Boy, that's not a position you want to be in when you're playing against Alabama, because I mean, regardless of what's going on in the outside world, Nick Saban is going to have his team ready,
Right.
And so if it is the case that the Aggies are rusty, that the Aggies haven't had the time to really prepare for the season, and Jimbo has a reputation of maybe not being a details guy. That got him into trouble, not necessarily football wise, but recruiting at Florida State, off field stuff at Florida State. There's so it doesn't bode well for Texas A&M on Saturday. And the thing that you mentioned, Alabama's defense gave up some yardage in the air at Missouri. they allowed only 69 yards rushing.
Yeah.
So
and Mizzou likes to run the ball, so like
yeah.
that's
So if you hope Kellen Mond will have a better performance this weekend, because it's going to be on him. If A&M is going to thinking they're going to go into Tuscaloosa and run the football to win, ain't happening. Senior quarterback, you think he's going to bounce back and have a better day, but Alabama is not really the team you want to try to get better. So Alabama's going to win this one, and I think pretty easily. At 7:30 on Saturday, number 7 Auburn at number 4 Georgia. Georgia's only favored by 6.5 points. This is kind of the ultimate we have no idea game, right?
Yeah. Because I said last week that I was going to pick Kentucky over Auburn because on paper they looked better, and I said I was going to regret that pick before lunch. And as I started watching that first half, I was like, yeah, that proved to be true. Because the way that Kentucky was going to win that game is if they got up early, being on the road, and they had the opportunity to do that. And then that pick in the end zone at the end of the first quarter or the end of the first half was just just killed. I saw that happen. And I know Malzahn was upset by that call. It was the right call. That annoyed the heck out of me because Malzahn can be a jerk in some cases, and he came across way.
Gus is annoying.
Yeah. And it was absolutely the right call, but it definitely shifted. And regardless, even though those points came off the board for Auburn, if you didn't see what happened, it looked like it was a 100-yard interception return for a touchdown. And it got called back for a blindside block. And it was absolutely the right call. Or was it targeting? Did he get thrown out of that game? I think it was a targeting call.
I think it was. I actually was listening to it live on the radio. As I was running errands on Saturday afternoon, but I think he did.
Yeah, my football was running together on Saturday. I think that might have been a targeting call. But I definitely was watching that game. And so that really shifted the momentum. But I mean, we were pretty critical of Auburn, graduating as many players as they did off the team and having players sit out because of the pandemic. And we were just like, Auburn is Bo Nix and who else? We didn't know. The who else is wide receiver Seth Williams, who just stepped up. And now we know who, just like I said with Alabama, we figured out who their go-to receiver is going to be. Bo Nix's receiver is going to be Williams, and he just was running all kinds of routes, and he received over half of Bo Nix's yards on Saturday. The offense is going to be okay. They waited until the fourth quarter to finally pull away from Kentucky. Mm-hmm. But the momentum shift and the defense, the Auburn defense really played well, and really disrupted Kentucky. So Auburn looks like it's going to be pretty solid. Is it a national title contender? Don't know yet. We have no idea, but I think it's in the mix. I think you can count Auburn in the mix in the West. Mm-hmm. Georgia is the epitome of we have no idea. I was keeping an eye on that score against Arkansas and going, what the heck is Georgia doing? Now we knew there was going to be some challenges there because quarterback change. So they started with DeJuan Mathis, and that didn't start well. And so Kirby Smart pulled him for Stetson Bennett, who gave them a pretty nice spark. Mm-hmm. And you would kind of expect that maybe Kirby Smart would name Stetson Bennett their starter heading into this game.
Based on that, yes.
Based on that, the challenge is that they have this kid named JT Daniels, who you may have heard of, who used to play at USC and transferred to Georgia and is now eligible and has been cleared to play.
Right.
There's no starting. It's Tuesday. They haven't named a starting quarterback for Sunday yet, or for Saturday yet. And who's it going to be? Who do you go with if you're Kirby Smart? Do you go with the guy that saved your butt from Arkansas, who played a good game at quarterback? I mean, he was solid. He did what he needed to do to beat a team that you're supposed to beat. But you got this stud who came in from the West Coast who just wanted to make sure he was playing football, and it's an interesting conversation as to who's going to start at quarterback for Georgia. Now, here's the good thing, that if Georgia can pick a quarterback that can simply connect with receivers, the Auburn defense secondary was not great. Right. So if Georgia can pick a quarterback that can hit receivers, Georgia should probably win this game. But that's a good question after we saw what happened in the first half against Arkansas. So I'm gonna go. I mean, you got to go with Georgia just because of reputation and whatnot, and they're playing at home. But this game's gonna be real close. That's a coin flip. I mean, I really thought about. We were joking about this being the prop show with the hat and everything. Like, I really thought about having a quarter to flip a coin for this one. You're right. This is the epitome of the we have no ideas. Of this weekend's schedule. I'll lean Georgia, but man, it wouldn't stun me if Auburn went down there and stole this one.
Okay. Kirby's got to make a decision between 15 or 20 potential starting quarterbacks. Here's the football cliche. You guys have heard this before. If you have multiple starting quarterbacks, you don't actually have any starting quarterbacks.
Yep. They don't work like running backs.
And Carla, you asked, who do you go with? I go with Bo Nix. He's got a receiver he's obviously comfortable with. He's got what looked to be a pretty solid offensive line. On the other side of the ball, Auburn's secondary's iffy, but going into a game with a guy who could be potentially starting his very first game with the team. Could be starting someone who, it came in as a reliever last week. Any of them who start, they're going to be looking over their shoulder.
Right.
That's an uncomfortable place for a quarterback to be. I think Auburn wins this. Tight game. It's going to be on, because it's on the road, but I will take stability over the kind of question marks that Kirby Smart has. I think that's a win for the Tigers. So
can I tell you how excited I am to actually have a game that should be competitive in the night slot? Because we haven't had that yet, really.
No.
The night games have all been complete blowouts and not really, kind of trying to find something else to watch, and then you end up flipping over to the Group of 5 game, whatever that is. Because the game on ABC is just kind of like out of control by the second quarter.
Yeah.
I am really looking forward, and I hope this game is as competitive as we're predicting it to be. I'm looking forward to having a competitive football game on Saturday night.
This will be, and I think the second one of these next two package games that we're talking about, I think that it's a night game as well, and it could be as interesting in a different way, perhaps less consequential, but okay, we have. As we were trying to figure out what games we were going to talk about this weekend, we had these two SEC games, ranked, unranked, easy to pick them. This is a thing we need to include both of those, and then we kind of came down to two more games in place of the third. I have a separate title for one of them, and you guys will understand why. But I'm going to call these "We Just Can't Look Away" games.
I love
it. And I'm wondering, actually, these are both Big 12 games. I'm wondering if maybe we should just, because they're going to be fun. They're going to be entertaining games. They're just not super consequential. And I'm wondering maybe if we should can we relegate the Big 12 to the Group of 5? I don't know if college football.
I tried to last week on the show.
You did. And I think you were correct. Especially after Oklahoma losing to K-State at home. But anyway, we have these two games. Texas Tech at K-State. State is favored by 2.5 points. And what I'm calling the train wreck bowl. That would be OU at Iowa State. Oklahoma is favored by 7. What are your thoughts?
So the first game, I do have to clarify. I don't know if I clarified this last week that when I was working at that same company that has the purple Y as a logo with an exclamation point. I like the Big 12 was one of my conferences. Okay. So I got to know a lot of people in the Big 12. I still have quite a few Big 12 followers on Twitter, which why they haven't unfollowed me after 8 years, I have no idea, but okay, it's fine. But the first game, the Tech and K-State game, that's the one that's in the afternoon. And literally the first thing, that game's a little earlier in the day. The first thing that I wrote in my notes here is, can both of these teams win this game? Like, first of all, I'm not going to hold back. Like, I love K-State. If I had to pick a team to root for in the Big 12, like, if it was one of those, like, you have to choose a team to be a fan of every conference, I'd 100% be a K-State fan. Mm-hmm. They were some of the message board people that I actually didn't mind dealing with. They were great. They had great conversations. They knew what they were. They had their, their expectations were, this is who we are.
Okay.
And so they were actually kind of a delight to deal with. And so I kind of came to love this little idea of Little Manhattan and the whole thing.
Nice.
And I was so happy to see them win on Saturday. That was it just did my heart so good to see K-State just come back, especially from being down 21 points twice in the second half, to come back and win that game. Just like that did my heart so good. And especially after I bashed the Big 12 about not deserving a spot in the playoff. And like, I was just like, yes, thank you. And then Texas Tech, I immediately flipped over after that game was over and started watching the end of that Tech UT game.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Tech had Texas on the ropes, and they just like laid an egg in the last 3 minutes of that game and let the Longhorns come back in there and tie it. And you knew when that game went to overtime that Texas was going to pull that out.
Yes.
Like that was just once the game went, that was just one of those like
Tech's got to do it in regular time, or it's just not going to happen.
Right. It's one of those games that if it had been the other way around, like Tech would have gone for 2, right? Like win it now or win it or lose it on this play. Yeah, because Texas is the better team. And so like, I really, really want it. I don't want either of these teams to lose. They're entertaining teams. Neither of them play defense, typical Big 12. Both of these teams have given up way more yards this season than they've actually earned on the ground. Like their averages are just absolutely absurd. If you want to go have fun with statistics, go look up the stats of these two teams. It's absolutely absurd, which is typical for the Big 12, right? I don't know if I actually picked a winner here. Tech had Texas on the ropes. Oh yeah. And then in game 1 of the season, Tech had to eke out against Houston Baptist. Remember,
yes.
we toasted the Houston Baptist?
Yes,
so that was week 1 for them. And week 1 for K-State, they lost to Arkansas State.
Right. Right.
So talk about like, how do you turn your season upside down in one game? Here you go.
Well, I'm saying you can't discount the first game against Houston Baptist, because Houston Baptist is the reigning college football champion in the city of Houston right now. Right.
No, because they went 0-2.
So,
but
who else is Houston didn't play in?
Yeah, and they and Houston Baptist gave both those teams, they gave both their much bigger opponents.
This is exactly what I'm saying. This is like Austin Peay, winning the Ohio Valley Conference last weekend
at 0-3.
Yeah, at 0-3. Yes.
Right. So. Well, yeah, Houston Baptist won the Southland. We agreed on that. I don't know if we agreed they won Houston, but they definitely won the Southland.
We are bestowing that title on them right now.
I'm going to go with my heart and say K-State wins this game at home.
Okay.
But this is that's a heck of a matchup. And what's Oklahoma? Who the heck knows? I think it's really telling that the line on that game is as small as it is.
Uh-huh.
My note on here was, have I mentioned the Big 12's a hot mess? Iowa State gives up more than 30 points a game.
Okay.
Brock Purdy somehow still the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's another one of those. Brock Purdy in his 7th year at Iowa State. Like it feels like he's been there forever.
Mm-hmm.
He only has 1 touchdown so far in the season. And for Oklahoma, Spencer Rattler had 4 touchdowns last week, which that's par for the course for a Big 12 team. But he also threw 3 picks. And as I was watching the end of that game, that offense just looked completely out of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just didn't make any sense at all what was happening there. OU's defense maybe has been a little bit good against the run. They've bottled up runners. And the Cyclones have tended to run a little bit more. If you look at their offensive numbers, they're pretty balanced.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, I can't believe I'm saying this, that Oklahoma's defense might be the difference here and Oklahoma wins. I know, right? Like that's laughable. So I'll give the edge to Oklahoma, but like, we have no idea. Train wreck. Yes. Watch this because it's going to be entertaining as heck and might not be consequential. Although if Oklahoma loses this game, they're done.
Yes.
Like that. This is Oklahoma cannot lose the rest of the season if they want any chance at all of getting into the playoff, which they shouldn't get into the playoff. But
I wonder if they're done now, but
they might be.
Yeah.
Depending on how much the Big 12 eats each other alive, which it tends to do, just like the Pac-12 does. So based on what we've seen this year, that's going to happen again. Yeah, and so, yeah, I think Oklahoma's done now as it is, but we have no idea.
And I have no idea about these games other than I think they're going to be fun. points wise, especially the first game.
Take the over.
Take the over. That's maybe the best, most solid advice we could offer. I'm going to give K-State the nod here with a little momentum, playing at home. I think they're allowing fans in Kansas. I don't know right now, so there maybe there's some fans in the stands. And I'm gonna pick Iowa State here to beat Oklahoma. Too much inconsistency in Oklahoma's offense. If the Sooners are relying on defense to win games, which is just a ridiculous notion,
right?
I think this is a team that's reeling. And if they understand what their position is in the national picture, they understand that they are in a really, really tough spot that they would not have anticipated. So I'm going with the home teams in both of these games. Okay, boys and girls, you can hear the Carla and Crappy Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever Google service is called these days, Stitcher, TuneIn, and a variety of other podcasting hosts. You can catch us on YouTube and on the show's Facebook page. If you like, please subscribe, rate, and review. If you don't, mind your own damn business. Be sure to come back next week when we see exactly how wrong we were. Carla, are the Steelers going to get a football game in your hometown this weekend?
I certainly hope so.
Stop.
I certainly hope so. This is the one time I get to be a homer.
You do.
I get to be a homer twice.
Okay.
I was actually going to go full Steeler jersey until the news broke today. We're recording this on Tuesday. I don't know if they're going to play Sunday. I've heard a contingency plan. They might move the game to Monday.
That is true. I saw that just as I was coming upstairs to set up to record.
Yeah, I think that's probably more likely. I'm really annoyed though, because had we not been in a global pandemic, I would be at this game. This is the only Titans game that I ever go to is when they host the Steelers.
Okay.
And so I was really looking forward this year to going, because the Steelers haven't played in Nashville for several years now. Mm-hmm. And I was really looking forward to this game, and then pandemic. So I'm kind of annoyed. So I hope this game happens. First of all, I hope everybody is okay that tested positive. So I hope everybody's okay, but I hope they get this game in so that I can wave my terrible towel and wear my jersey on Sunday. And then I have to squeeze in one more thing, my blue pom-pom, because this is officially the biggest rivalry weekend at MTSU.
Oh,
it is 100 miles. It's called 100 Miles of Hate, but I'm going to call it the 100-mile rivalry between Middle and Western Kentucky. Here's the cool thing. One of these, we're 100 miles apart. We don't like each other very much at all. And in fact, they do a blood drive every year between the two schools, which is cool, as to who can donate the most blood between them.
Ohio State and Michigan does that too.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool thing to go with the rivalry. Neither of these teams has won a game this year. So somebody's going to win their first game of the year at Floyd Stadium on Saturday, and dang it, let it be the Blue Raiders.
Are you? Is Floyd Stadium the home for Middle? Is that,
yes.
Okay, you gonna go? Are they doing fans?
Yeah, they are. They're allowing 3,000 fans in based on capacity. The band is there. The band is actually really cool. They put the band up in the upper deck, which is a really cool idea, and then they can space them all out. Okay. And they just stay up there the entire time, and so it's pretty cool what they've done with them. I'm self-quarantining because I'm hoping to take a trip to see my family. So no, I'm not going. But I'm hoping that.
I was going to say I would certainly Professor Carla would be allowed to go see the game if she so desired.
Yeah, I think we would be able to get in. There hasn't been an when your team is 0-3, there's not a huge rush for tickets. And a lot of students aren't on campus, which stinks. But that's another conversation. But yeah, normally I would consider going. The weather's going to be gorgeous. The weather's gorgeous here now. It's going to be fabulous on Saturday. Yes. So I would love to be in Floyd Stadium, but I think I'm going to play it safe and watch it from home. But dang it, Raiders win. Okay. I will be for the Raiders. I will be also be for the Titans because of Mike Vrabel, and I just want the Steelers to lose. And my final thought, we spent a lot of time relatively talking about Abilene Christian this season. Abilene Christian is at Army this weekend. I think Army gets well.
after the loss in Cincinnati. I'm not sure that's going to be enough to put them back in the top 25. But man, with the Army football, we've had a great run so far, and I think this will continue until a showdown with Navy at the end of the year, which this should be a fun one. That's going to be a fun thing, guys. I appreciate you. We appreciate you tuning us in, listening, watching. Do watch for Carla's mortarboard and for my ridiculous cat, and enjoy the games and come back next weekend to listen to more fun. Carla, thank you very much.
Of course.
Your glasses. No, you still got a little wine there.
I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. Yep.
You're doing okay. Guys, cheers. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Best show ever.
The professionalism, it just reeks of professionalism.